President Trump wasted no time placing blame on the prior administration. Let's listen in.
The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run the Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of the Department of Transportation, his government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity.
Secretary Pete Buttigieg reacting on Twitter, he writes, "Despicable. As families grief, you should be leading, not lying. We had 0 commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. President Trump now oversees the military and FAA. One of his first acts was to fire the people that keep skies safe. He then wrote, 'Time for the Prevacid, and to show leaders, President to show actual leadership, and explain how he will stop this from happening again.'" Lynda is joining me now. Your thoughts about what he had to say?
Well, first of all, let me just start by saying how remarkable it is that at a time of incredible tragedy for the nation, that we are seeing the great politicizing of the incident itself. It's not something that we should get used to. It's not something that we've seen in the event of other tragedies that have happened over the many, many decades of both Republicans and Democrats at the helm of the great safety agencies that regulate the airways in our country. So I just want to start there. It's strange to see the political football. But I also want to make clear what the secretary is talking about are the actual data. So, for example, part of his comment was about the air traffic controllers and the recruits that have happened. So during his leadership, we actually exceeded the number of recruitments for air traffic controllers last year for the very first time in decades. So there's significant progress that has been made. And then really big picture here, rather than get caught up in the culture wars that it's clear that this president would like us to focus on, what actually needs to happen fundamentally is continued, sustained, and in fact, increased investment for the Federal Aviation Administration. Consider the fact that the operations for the air traffic organization caps out at about $10 billion, and just millions of that amount is dedicated towards air traffic control operations. And so to be really, really clear, part of what needs to happen is a lot of investment into upgrading air traffic control towers, into upgrading technology and tools that are used to keep passengers safe, and certainly not this political back and forth.
You have a president targeting Mr. Buttigieg, saying he hired individuals with disabilities and mental issues. We have to ask, are there hiring policies that put hiring of people like this in place?
Absolutely a fair question. And to be really clear, under the previous administration, there were very inclusive hiring practices that are designed, if you think about it, to ensure that the agencies that protect Americans are educated by the lived experiences of those Americans that it is designed to serve. In no way, shape, or form would there have been anyone in an air traffic control tower who had severe mental disabilities or would be unable to carry out the responsibilities of that job. It's again a deflection, a distraction from the fact that a very terrible thing happened today, and it was under the watch of this president.
Are you personally aware of any hiring of anybody who is flagged as having any mental disabilities?
I am not.
The president also says that people of merit should fill these jobs. What do we know about the people that are hired? We need to be clear that we do not know if there was any connection between DI or any other policies the president has said. The president did have to say a lot about DI hires. You mentioned inclusive policies picked. You feel anybody that was hired because of DI policy rather than merit?
What I can tell you is I have spent my own fair share of time in air traffic control towers all across this country. And what I can tell you about the people that I've encountered is that they went through extensive training. They're extraordinarily committed to the jobs, and they take the safety of the flying public extraordinarily seriously. There's no question in my mind that the people that are operating our air traffic control towers right now have the best interest and are incredibly talented and skilled at their jobs.
We appreciate the conversations. We know some questions was tough, but they were supposed to be asked. Thank you for your time.